your stamina. You should rest before you're out of gas.
It's over 30 years since the very first Metal Gear released, with series mastermind Hideo Kojima at the helm. In the time that followed, we've been given some of the greatest stealth games to ever exist. With every new release in the franchise, something new was introduced that blew our minds. The torture scene, or the Psycho Mantis controller switch section in Metal Gear Solid, the heart-wrenching end to Snake Eater, or the freedom to play exactly how you want in the Phantom Pain. Metal Gear has always been one step ahead of the game, but it's going to be interesting to see how they managed to do this without Kojima. After playing Metal Gear Survive recently at the Konami offices in Windsor, the answer is simple. Here is a game that has a target on its back from the beginning, and there are fans of the series that simply won't accept it without him. To those of you out there that feel this way, please believe me when I say that this game is a perfect continuation to a series without the man who led it for so long. With the incorporation of the Fox engine, some great ideas, Survive has a lot of potential. I spent about 3 hours playing the single player, and I also got to play a fair amount of the multiplayer. Thankfully, both feel like Metal Gear. The gameplay is identical to Metal Gear Solid 5, which is perfect because it is still very much a part of my muscle memory. It didn't take long to get back into the swing of things. One thing I wasn't expecting though was just how much it made me think of Snake Eater. You have a hunger and thirst percentage, both dwindling as you explore the strange alternate reality you find yourself in. To find food and water, you must hunt and scavenge the plains to do so. For example, there are a multitude of animals you must hunt to get meat, such as goats, rats and jackals. But to avoid food poisoning, it's a wise idea to take the food back to the camp to cook it over a fire, reducing the risk of contamination and sickness. Likewise, there's plenty of empty bottles to fill with dirty water from a nearby pond, but finding clean water is not going to make you sick. If you do find that you've caught something, there are antibiotics you can take to cure yourself. I also noticed a huge manner of medicines were available, so I can only imagine how in depth the system is the more you play. As well as scavenging for sustenance, you also scavenge for materials like iron, wood and copper. These help build barricades, fences, gear, gadgets, weapons, a whole manner of things. And when you play the multiplayer, both bleed into each other, so you can use the materials you find in multiplayer to take back into the single player and so on. But a little bit more on that later. Your base has different benches where you can craft all your items, and it becomes self-explanatory how you use them. Later down the line you can unlock wormhole transporters that both act as a fast travel back to main base, and a means to use all the different benches away from base camp, and unlocking these transporters become one of the best bits of my time with it. To gain access to the transporters, you must protect them for a certain amount of time from one of the game's enemy. These enemies feel very much like zombies and have red crystals protruding from their necks. When you're trying to stop them from damaging these transporters, it becomes very frantic, mainly because they turn up in droves, so unless you've built some decent barriers around the transporters, they'll overwhelm you in seconds. It took me a couple of attempts to do it, but it was exhilarating when I finally did, and it was a nice touch I hadn't expected to see, one of many in fact. Another element of the single player I got to see was collecting memory boards from certain locations on the map. They acted as a way for your character and the research team you were working with to learn about the world you find yourself in. These memory boards were in abandoned buildings, almost always surrounded by these zombies. On one occasion I noticed one in a room atop of one of the compounds, but to get there I had to try and evade around 4 or 5 of these zombie fellas. After clearing them, I thought I was safe, but just before I was about to climb towards the room harbouring the board, around 15 of them appeared, and it became something that wouldn't seem out of place from Dawn of the Dead. I shat my briefs, but I didn't care, this was great. There was another feature of the single player I really liked, and it was called the dust. At the far reaches of the map, a huge wall of dust filled the screen, and after you craft an air mask, you're free to travel beyond it. Once you walk through the dust, things become tricky to say the least. Firstly, you have an oxygen level that mustn't reach 0, but also enemies are more frequent. It's an area more dangerous and unsettling, with much tenser encounters and a sense of terror filling every second you're there. Rewards are more bountiful whilst there, but it's also more of a risk. I'm very much looking forward to see just how tough it gets once the game is fully released. All in all, the single player offers a lot to do, and although I didn't see a lot of references to previous games, the mention of XOF got the Metal Gear fanboy inside me squealing with excitement. It's also worth mentioning that the story seems interesting too, which is something I didn't doubt, but not something I felt would be too engaging or important. It looks as though some serious time has been put into making the story mode, you know, something that's going to appeal to Metal Gear fans, something I was very happy to see being a big fan. The multiplayer was a lot of fun too. You and 3 friends must protect a wormhole digger from 3 waves of enemies within a time limit. If you're successful, you earn rewards such as materials for your base and upgrade points to help you level up and unlock skills. Things you earn in multiplayer can be carried over into the single player, and the stuff you already own in single player can be carried over into the multi, so it always pays to have a full stock before taking on the waves online. Whilst I only saw the zombie-like creatures in the single player, I got to see some other enemy types in the multiplayer, such as these creatures with huge swollen infected bodies that exploded after a while. The waves were tense, but before each one commenced you had a short time to build defence a la Fortnite. Wooden fences could normally be destroyed by them after 10 seconds or so, but building a few in a row helped to subdue them for a while, and the wire fences also helped. You can construct mines and even unlock walkers as featured in the Phantom Pain, so God knows what other treats await you the more you play. I rather enjoyed the multiplayer, and I'm looking forward to seeing just how these impact the overall game regarding progression. Metal Gear Survive is a great step forward for the series, and it really shows just how Konami cares about the series that's come before it. There's plenty to do, plenty to see, there's loads of little treats and surprises for fans of the games it seems. The hunting elements I really enjoy because in Snake Eater it was one of the best elements of the game, so I'm no doubting that this game will be in the Game of the Year awards for many in the end of the year, if people can get past the fact that Kojima isn't there anymore. I'm Chris White from God is a Geek, thank you for watching.